Hey guys, it's a beautiful afternoon. Today I'm thinking about gratitude. Gratitude changes everything, changes our worldview, makes everything different. Not because life suddenly gets easier, but because we become stronger. I met a man who was married out of wedlock, and he resented the decision after the fact. The early years were tough. He had lots of valid complaints. He began to question, did I make the right decision? That same man was one day advised to practice gratitude. So he began to try. For some reason, he thought, you know what? I've tried everything else, I'll give it a shot. And though it was hard at first, it began to change his whole perspective. And nothing really changed at first. He was thankful for the small things, and nothing changed. But all of a sudden he just felt better in the marriage. And as things began to shift in his own perspective, he began to see the positive effects of that gratitude actually begin to transform the relationship itself so that it was yielding fruit. But just like planting a farm, you plant and you don't see anything until you water and water and water, and eventually you get a harvest. And so he became happier despite the fact that nothing changed. And then as he continued to sow gratitude, that relationship changed for the better. When you start to say thank you for what you have, you're starting to unlock something powerful. You stop chasing happiness like it's out there somewhere, and you realize that happiness is not something that you have to go find or that's dependent on someone else's behavior, but it's actually something that is rooted inside of you and doesn't require the world to act a certain way. Because the truth is we can't control the world. We can't control people. And if we base our joy or our happiness or our peace on factors that are outside of our control, you can just give up now. You're not going to find any happiness. Your prefrontal cortex will be activated when you start to practice gratitude. And that's the part of the brain that makes you feel good. And as you practice gratitude, the amygdala, which is the part that gives you fear and sadness and everything like that, that will actually begin to reduce. In addition to both of those things, your brain will begin to trigger the reward system. And as you get used to this and practice it, it'll create this cycle where it'll be easier to be grateful next time. Because it's not going to be easy at first. When life sucks, it's like, how do you be grateful? That's not easy. But as you do it, as you practice it, as your brain activates the prefrontal cortex, reduces the amygdala, and then you get the reward system, more and more you'll create these pathways that will allow it to be easier and easier to stay in a gratitude state and overall improve your happiness. So the challenge today is to think to yourself, what are 3 things I'm grateful for? Small or big. If you can't find anything big, shrink the size until you find 3 things. Write them down, feel them, and begin to make that a habit. It's not about ignoring the struggles, because they exist, but it's about remembering the good, no matter how small. And once you live from that place, fear, doubt, comparison, those things lose their grip. So let's break the grip of fear and grasp the hand of wisdom. See you next time.